because I've just come from Japan, actually. And Japan and New Zealand have two very important points in common. Everybody wants to go to those two places in the world. When I told my friends I was coming here, the amount of direct messaging I received about how cool it was I was going to New Zealand and how awesome it was to, to be able to visit this country. You, as people who live here, may or may not feel that reflection, but I have messages from people from Boston, Massachusetts, to Tokyo, Japan, to France and London, are like, wow, I just would love to get there. So your image as far as tourism and visitation is extremely positive around the world. My responsibility here today is to follow up on a promise I made almost 9 months to the day ago. We sat down, Craig and Ian, and we were at a conference in Las Vegas, and we agreed to do this. We shook hands and we said, let's go build a hyperscaler in New Zealand, for New Zealand. And that was 9 months ago. Some of you might be aware about the market that hyperscalers operate in. Some promises have been made to this country 2 years ago, 4 years ago, and you're still waiting for those promises to be upheld. This group of folks got together, made the commitment, organized themselves, were incredibly fluid and incredibly supportive of working with Oracle, and they got it done. We handed the keys over, the data center's up and running, we've signed our first customer, and I will tell you, not only is that exciting, but what the opportunities that's going to create are incredible. At Oracle, Larry Ellison, is our founder and CTO, and Safra Katz, who's our CEO, who I report directly to, get an update on this every week. They know I'm here right now, and I will speak to them next Monday when I get back to, well, I should be in India next Monday, but I'll speak to them from India to tell them about this event and about the excitement this is generating. Why is this important to all of you, though? And you heard a little bit from Chris, and you'll hear more from the panel today. I'd like to start with, because I've been reading about the economy in New Zealand and the political landscape and some of the challenges that the country is having right now, and I think that this is really good news for New Zealand. And the reason why is that Oracle has flipped the business paradigm on its head. Typically, and I won't say just American companies, but being an American, I can say this, American companies will come into a country, be it Japan, be it here, be it Singapore, be it India, and they will find partners and distributors. They will set up a value proposition, and they'll sell. They'll sell $1 of technology. They'll pay some very good friend, very good partner, very good distributor 6% of that, and they'll take 94 cents back to the United States. This is not happening here. This is Team Cloud's business. Oracle is a compute and storage provider. We are part of the infrastructure. And the agreement and the financials stay with Team Cloud, and they stay in New Zealand. The bulk of that expenditure is going to remain in your economy and keep cycling. The Japanese have caught on to this. We have got these up and running with Nomura Research Institute in Tokyo with 147 banks connected to an identical infrastructure. Fujitsu has just signed up for 3 of these in Japan. And the Japanese, much like yourselves, are very proud of their country. They like to innovate, but they're tired of just passing the money through and seeing it disappear. And what we've done here is we've brought not only the first hyperscaler to New Zealand with Team Cloud, but we've brought a business model where you have local support, local contracting, local expenditure, and the currency and the funds stay local to the country. And our job here is to support Team Cloud, and my job, with the help of Mr. Ellison and Ms. Katz, is to help and drive innovation here so that you can change the paradigm of your economy. You can take your young folks that are out in universities and teach them low-cost compute and get them to be developing infrastructure of their own. You can take the enterprises and you keep the data sovereign so they can promise to their customers, your data's not sitting out there in Paris or in Virginia in the United States or somewhere up in Tokyo. Your data set is staying inside New Zealand. And then last but not least, the most important change is that it's going to unleash innovation. Because one thing about the world that has changed dramatically, and I've been doing this for 40 years, innovation is the great equalizer. It doesn't matter anymore if you're far away. It doesn't matter anymore if you're big. You don't have to be big and near to win anymore in this world. What you have to be is innovative, you have to be bright, and you have to be energetic and aggressive. And if you do that, you can build an economy that, if I may, outpunches your weight class by far. And I think this is an opportunity for New Zealand. And what Team Cloud has done and the leadership here by taking that very bold and aggressive step to get this going and do so fast. I think it's going to be something that the young people of future generations and all of us in business now can leverage to drive a whole new paradigm. Because again, you're not far away on the internet, and you're not of scale that you can't compete again on the internet. The leveling of the playing field is here, and Team Cloud has brought that to you.
Hello. Oh, brilliant. Thank you. It is so exciting, and there was a lot in that, and I think, just to reiterate, you being here, knowing that the founder and CEO of Oracle have their eyes on New Zealand, no pressure, Ian. It is incredibly exciting, and the opportunity and the scale, thank you from all of us, and great to have everyone here to hear more about it today. Now, Louise, I want to come to you, obviously, with the research and the insights that you're hearing from customers, both locally and in the JPAC region. We heard from Chris about the rapid growth of the AI market. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you're seeing that AI and cloud technologies are reshaping industries and driving economic growth as well?
Yeah, thanks for that, Sharon. I think a lot of what Garrett's already talked about is what we're seeing reflected in our research. It is a huge opportunity, and it's a huge opportunity for New Zealand to take advantage of this. And I'll just give you a bit of context to the discussion, because we know all this doesn't happen in a vacuum. We know that the environment that we're in does shape a lot of this discussion. And the conversations that we're hearing around cloud and sovereign cloud in particular are becoming really acute in New Zealand. We're getting a lot of questions about it. What does it mean? Is it something that we should be capturing to take advantage of in New Zealand? And is it going to really produce true opportunities? And there are a few key things behind what is driving this investment and this interest in sovereign cloud. We look at the geopolitics of the world at the moment. At the start of this year, we started talking about how important sovereignty was becoming to nations around the world. Governments in particular were really talking to us about what do we need to do to ensure that we have our own self-determination, that we are sustainable in terms of our approach to technology, and also in terms of survivability. So those are the three prongs that we see for digital sovereignty. Data sovereignty is part of that. It's the foundation of sovereignty. When we talk about sovereignty, it's across all technologies. And so you'll start to hear phrases like AI sovereignty. You'll start to hear any kind of new technology is going to have sovereignty tagged onto it. And it is an opportunity as well, because we know that New Zealand has been a strong adopter of cloud right from the start. Hybrid cloud is the preferred cloud model in New Zealand. And we know from our research that having a strong hybrid cloud base or a multi-cloud base is important for sovereignty. So we see a lot of emphasis on the investment in sovereignty based on that cloud. I think the opportunities that we have is about ensuring that we capture the opportunities that are unique to New Zealand. I think there's a lot of discussion about what makes us stand out. How can we compete in terms of artificial intelligence or generative AI? And what we're saying is we're really at the start line here. We're at the same point as a lot of other countries, and therefore how can we capture that opportunity now and make it uniquely special for New Zealand? And the work that we've done around innovation in New Zealand has shown that investors overseas want to invest in New Zealand. And the reason is not because we're good at big technology and those big solutions. It's really those domain-specific solutions. And this is where the big opportunities lie for New Zealand, but also organisations that have got that stable sovereign base. I'm thinking about artificial intelligence in industry context. We know agribusiness is very big. There's big opportunities there. So it's drawing on that experience. It's drawing on our environment to make sure that we can compete on a global basis. Productivity is everywhere. If you talk about cloud and innovation and artificial intelligence, the first thing that comes up in any organisation that we talk to and government that we talk to is around productivity. So this is what we call Horizon 1. This is where we are right now. It's very specific use cases. They're very targeted at creating efficiency in the organisation. It may be around contact centre. It might be around productivity in the workplace. This is what everyone is doing. This is not where New Zealand is going to differentiate. We cannot compete on the scale of large global organisations. Horizon 2 is where it's probably about 2 years out, 3 years out. This is where we start to see some really disruptive technologies. Again, this isn't really where New Zealand is probably going to play. So it's things such as, interestingly, critical national infrastructure. We know that's important based on what's happened over the last few days. It's become forefront of the conversation. So when we talk to governments over the last 8 months, one of the things that kept coming up over and over again is how do we ensure that we are protecting our critical digital infrastructure? Australia's very good at it, the UK is very good at it, they've got a process in place, they've got a plan in place, and you could see on Friday night when the Australian government pulled all those industries together in one room about the conversation within hours. So they were prepared for this situation, but it just shows you how vulnerable infrastructure is. And then we look at the industry use cases. So this is the stuff that's in Horizon 3, and it's about 3 or 4 years away. So now is the time that we can take advantage of that. And I know I'm going on a little bit.
But I was going to say, following on from that, it'd be great to hear from Ian and talk about what are those benefits of local cloud regions and the AI capabilities as a result of this.
Is this on?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, thank you, everyone. I mean, it's a fantastic turnout. I'm quite humbled, actually. Not a spare seat in the house, as they say. Yeah, we've been operating, well, Team IM has been operating in New Zealand for a few years. And in the last 2 or 3, we've been, our customers have been asking us about when are you going to have a hyperscaler ability in New Zealand? When we were talking to Oracle, Oracle sort of said, well, we don't really have plans to open it ourselves, but we have this marvelous program that you might be interested in. And sort of the wheels have moved on since then, and now we're here owning and managing our cloud, which is being powered by Oracle Cloud. So the best of both worlds almost. We've got a massive multinational with huge R&D budgets, cloud engineering, cloud infrastructure, and all those services have been delivered by us, a local company. Our office is literally 2 minutes from here. I travel in my working week about 5K a week, walking to and from the office. We're above Charlie Noble, so we always have refreshments on hand. And our 24/7 support centre will be based there as well. So when there are issues or teething problems, we've got a local person who can talk to you. The reason our customers were asking us about sovereign cloud and cloud in New Zealand was because there's, geopolitical risks, cyber terrorism, cyber resilience, latency with overseas clouds, and data and sovereignty. And also I think sustainability has become a real feature for a lot of people, and we chose 100% sustainable carbon neutral data centers to host our clouds. I don't sound like it, but I've been living here for 30 years. My children live here, and I want my children, everyone else's, to have a really good future in New Zealand. So we are encouraging lots of small partners to get into our cloud to really promote them overseas. We have some incredibly intelligent, big-brained people in New Zealand with some amazing products, but they never have an opportunity to showcase them. But we know that if we showcase them on Team Cloud, because we use exactly the same cloud infrastructure and services as any other OCI region, that we can sell those products for them and then we can export them. So it's a huge move for New Zealand. And the same token, we can't do everything ourselves. So we're also looking to partner with a lot of the partner community in New Zealand because we think this is an incredible step for us. And I have to thank Oracle. I mean, Oracle has just moved heaven and earth to make this happen. And we've got some people here who've travelled a long distance. We've got Garrett, but we've got Christian over there. Stand up, Christian. Christian runs the team in Seattle, and his people have just worked day and night to make this happen. It's amazing, and the commitment from Oracle has just been huge. So we're incredibly excited. To be able to say that we've got a data resident, data sovereign, resilient cloud in New Zealand is quite amazing for our company, Team Cloud.
Brilliant, and really want to acknowledge the sustainability piece there and your commitment to New Zealand, and you might have underplayed a little bit how quickly you've moved, so at pace as well. So congratulations, Ian, it's really exciting. Now I want to come to all of you in a moment, but before that, Garrett, given the number of miles you travel each month, I know you've seen, to give us a bit of a taste of what's possible, some really exciting customer success stories. So can you share with us a bit about those?
Happy to do so. And I think Louise made a very important statement that we all have to get our heads around, is that this doesn't happen in one quantum leap. This is a journey. There's phases, and your phasing is accurate, maybe a year to 2 years to 3 years. And what I think will happen, and we saw this in Japan, the first edition of this sovereign cloud was deployed by a company called Nomura Research Institute. They are the technology vendor to the Tokyo Stock Exchange. And the Japanese banks said, listen, we're willing to go off-prem and onto cloud for a couple of reasons. One is, every time someone goes into our machine room and does an upgrade on a Sunday night, we literally sleep on nails until Monday morning to see if this thing's going to come back up and run. And we're the Tokyo Stock Exchange. If we fail, the economy begins to fail. The second thing that they were nervous about on-prem was that the infrastructure being patched by human beings, much of what we heard about last week, is incredibly unreliable just because we're humans. We make mistakes, and these things happen. And then the third thing that they wanted to be able to do is to allow the data to be utilized, but they didn't want to grab the data of other countries and other verticals. They wanted it to be their data so they could analyze it, and they were beginning to prepare for AI. And Nomura Research Institute will be the first cloud with GPUs and ARI in this Oracle Cloud environment. But they understood that they needed to be their data to be useful. So overseas, in Japan, we rapidly went from, this is an idea, to now 147 banks and the Tokyo Stock Exchange are on this backbone. The next step to that was they opened it up to other commercial customers. 7-Eleven worldwide is now on this backbone. And we're seeing more and more of interest. The government of Bangladesh has cut over one of these infrastructures in April. And they're moving all of their health and financial infrastructure, both for government and citizen service, onto this architecture because the data stays inside of Bangladesh. And this is one important point that I want to just end with. The data that you, the enterprise, put into this cloud, Team Cloud, even Oracle doesn't see it. It not only stays in New Zealand, but they are the only ones, and even they don't see it unless you give them permission to see it. Your data is as secure as if it was on-prem. Mr. Ellison jokes that this is an on-prem cloud, and no one else has this architecture. No other hyperscaler can do this and offer the services that Team Cloud can offer. And that consistency, the point that Ian made, I want to finish with that. If you build something on this cloud and you need to use it in Sydney and you want to put it on the Sydney data center for Oracle, you just lift and move it. The architecture is identical. If you have a really great idea and you're going to take an ID system, such as you're doing now, that all the governments around the world are beginning to work on. The US has ID.me, which is up and running, and a little bit still immature, but it's beginning. The Japanese are building an ID system as well. You'll see the same thing in China and other countries and in India. You can just take that application, as long as it runs on this Alloy infrastructure, Team Cloud, you can lift it and drop it on another Oracle infrastructure. It is literally plug and play. So this opens up an opportunity, as you said, not just domestically to keep data sovereign and drive artificial intelligence and build infrastructure faster, cheaper, and more secure, but it also opens up you to the rest of the world for your developers, and most importantly, your young people. And we intend, working with Team Cloud, to get the content of low-code development, cloud management, database management, and we'll provide that to your universities at no charge. They can take that infrastructure and begin educating the next generation so they come cloud ready, they come data ready, and most importantly, they come AI ready. And we don't tell them, well, just go learn Python or R or some other language. We'll give a coding language, including Apex, which is so simple that even I could develop an application with that. So this is really exciting. The future is just incredibly open. But as Louise correctly said, you have to step through this. It's a journey, and we're here to work with you and support you for this journey.
Thank you. Feel that commitment. And Paul and Louise talked about our productivity and skills challenges, so really important to talk about that. Given that we've got public and private sector in the room, thank you for the examples of both. Now, who has the first question for our panel? Don't be shy.
No one has more jet lag than Christian and I, so somebody's going to ask a question.
If you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself and who your question is directed to.
Actually, it's not a question, it's more of a comment.
Perfect.
Actually. And I think that's because I think about Māori data sovereignty. Yeah. So data sovereignty, thinking about the country in which the data resides, but for Māori data sovereignty, it thinks about Māori maintaining control and ownership of that data. So actually, I'm quite excited to hear about Sovereign Cloud in terms of that data remains onshore within New Zealand. So really just a comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Beautiful.
Kia ora, it's a question for Ian.
We'll just get you a microphone, sorry. Thank you.
Kia ora, Ian. Leon Grandy from Armillery. Can you tell us when you expect to be up and running and when you expect to have clients on board and
Took my last
testing
question.
things out? Yeah. and I know it's a very commercial environment, but perhaps you're happy to share that, maybe you're not, maybe you can give us some indications instead. Thank you.
Yeah. So we were hoping for this to be the big bang at the end. Thank you, Leon. We were actually handed the keys and we went live with our first region on Sunday. So, I mean, I didn't do anything. I'm the MD, so I just wait for the phone to ring. There's a heap of people in this room who just worked really hard to make that. But we are now setting up, so we've created our first tenancy. So we're going to set up some demo environments, some other stuff this week, and we're doing some configuration. And our first customer starts migrating into our cloud on the 1st of August.
Very exciting.
Yes.
Thank you, Leon. We've got another question here. Speed.
Just
yes.
for reference, that is the fastest build of a Oracle cloud region so far in the history of our company. So they are the fastest. We've never built one in 9 months. It will get faster with time, but to date, go live, what Ian just described is and by the way, that's not just Oracle, that's the fastest cloud region that has ever been built by any company on this planet.
Hello, Marie Nordstrand from Education Payroll. Louise, I was really interested in your horizons, and I wondered, was there a Horizon 4 that you didn't cover, and is there a published paper on this?
Yes, so that's the simple answer. So when we look at any kind of technology, whether it's cloud, artificial intelligence, we always think of what's the opportunities in the future and keeping it real. So we debate amongst ourselves, make sure that we've got the timing right, based on adoption rates, based on how other technologies are maturing. So things such as data governance, security. So the maturity of the country does really shape those horizons. We do have on IDC's website there, we've just launched what we call industry use cases for generative AI. So the last few months we've been working together as a global team, understanding the different horizons around that particular technology. And we try to make that sort of information as publicly available as possible, because we understand it's part of generating the conversation, but also uncovering, for a researcher point of view, starting those discussions about, you know, how real do these horizons look? And we go in about every 2 or 3 years and we look at those horizons and say, what has changed? Having said that, when we were talking about artificial intelligence, you know, 3 years ago, generative AI wasn't even on that horizon. So that's just how quickly things can change and keeping on top of it. While I've got the mic, just talking about Maori data sovereignty, what you were saying there. I think this is something that is really differentiating for New Zealand. We can, you know, I think, yes, we disagree at a country level. You know, there's a lot of discussion that's going on, but what we are doing is we are talking about it as a country. And you look at other countries, it can be quite a regional or just a small group point of view. So we're seeing discussions going on in Canada about Indigenous sovereignty, Thailand, Taiwan, India, Malaysia. They're all having these discussions, but where New Zealand is, I think we're a bit further ahead on that and understanding how important it is to bring that into the discussion and use it to shape our own sovereignty and our own future for technology. So, yeah.
And Garrett, you're obviously nodding your head in agreement there, and also interested to hear, thinking about the future and your global experience, like how do you see the hyperscale cloud solutions evolving in New Zealand? And perhaps, Ian, you can add to that a bit about what steps you're taking to meet that growing demand as well.
So I think the key of innovation is that it always needs a stepping stone. Innovation is not typically born of itself. Something occurs. And in this case, particularly with what we're talking about today, is that you now have access to infrastructure that runs secure, runs cost-effective, and runs sovereign. So your data is protected. You have predictable financials. Oracle is the only cloud that does not charge for egress. And that's one of the big things the AI has not yet taken into consideration with the other hyperscalers, is that you get a big data bill when you run these huge models, but we don't charge for that, and neither does Team Cloud. So you've got the ability to have predictable financials. And then I think the last and probably the biggest step is security. You all have businesses. The fastest way to lose a customer is to lose trust. And if you lose trust, it's very difficult to regain in the digital environment. And one of the things that we've done is this cloud is a Gen 2 cloud. It's a second generation cloud. 15 years ago, Amazon built a cloud to help help organize and ship books. And then they had extra capacity, so they started selling it. About 10 years ago, Microsoft built a cloud, and it was primarily to begin distributing Windows across so that they could have digital architecture to go from on-prem, stop shipping the box, and ship a service. And then Google built a cloud, very remnant of our Gen 1 cloud, which Oracle built about 12 years ago, but it was really just to store and compute. There wasn't that concern of the bad actors in security. We didn't have ransomware. To your earlier point, we just didn't have a lot of things we have today. But what Oracle did is, if you think F1 as an analogy, we kind of took a pit stop. We got off the track, and we let the other guys pass us by. But Mr. Ellison did this because he realized we couldn't just keep taping on capabilities to the old architecture, bolting on and creating, for lack of a better expression, a Frankenstein cloud. Because the integrations, the connections, and the cost was just not going to improve. So we took that pit stop and we rebuilt the cloud architecture from the bottom up. This generation 2, security is the base layer. It's not something bolted on the side. It's founded on an infrastructure that understands the database. We actually use the same network infrastructure, so the pipes, so to speak, are of the same speed. And then the application layer was opened up so that everyone can work with it. We are the only cloud vendor that works with Microsoft and works with Google. We built gateways because we believe, as was earlier stated, that you have to have a multi-cloud strategy. And we put our money and our investments and our product where our mouth was. And what that's done is it's brought this Generation 2 cloud to you here in New Zealand for you to build on, write to, experiment, and innovate. And AI will not be the last innovation. It's just what's happening now. But as Chris showed earlier, the speed of the curve is just so dramatically faster. And what will AI drive? What will it deliver to all of us in this room? It'll drive automation. It'll drive productivity. It'll drive ease of use. It will drive services being delivered that probably used to be delivered by people. And it will create additional productivity. That's the horizon we can see. The exciting horizon is the one that we can't see, that we're not sure about, which is when robots and people begin to learn to interact. And I don't quite frankly know if that's going to be a good outcome or we're all going to be living in Terminator. There's a possibility of that if there's no governance. But I think together, if we get ourselves around this, we can guide that future. We can create, drive, and then innovate on that. And what's exciting, you know, for our children and their children is that one thing is absolutely for sure, that's going to be change. And we can harness it and embrace it and drive it, which I think is what we're talking about today. But you need tools to do that. And this is part of that tool set that we're delivering here with Team Cloud, and we're very excited and proud to be doing so.
Thank you. Ian, any?
Well, just a few things, I think. If I was sitting out there, I'd have some questions in my head. The first one would be, what about capacity? And if we come along to you and we say, we want to move our workload into your cloud, how easy is it for you to scale up? And our agreement with Oracle is that we do monthly capacity planning. So if we know we're going to have a big workload coming on, I phone Christian and say, send some more infrastructure over, and Christian obliges. So we have, yes, so it's elastic. So, and we have the same principle as any other cloud. You can basically breathe in and breathe out in terms of your usage. So you can, and you can even breathe out and in within 1 month to limit your expenditure. The next question is probably, what about AI? Because everyone asks that question. So our Team Cloud has AI in it, and we're using all the AI tools within Oracle Cloud, the same as you'd get in San Francisco or London or elsewhere. All our racks are GPU ready. So if we have big demand for AI, which requires GPU, now AI can run without GPU, but when you get to a certain model size, you do need that extra grunt. Again, that's a phone call potentially to Christian, John, and Stephen to say, can we have some of those as well? So it's really, there's no really cap on what we can do. The last thing that I think we've picked up definitely from talking to people is that people believe that our cloud can only deal with Oracle workloads. But we have infrastructure as a service, and that's just like AWS. It can deal with any kind of workload. And if you're moving your Oracle workloads into our cloud, then it makes sense to move your legacy workloads as well. And the price-performance ratio is incredible in Oracle Cloud.
Yeah, brilliant. So thinking about, the companies that you're going to be working together with in New Zealand, that breathing space will be incredibly valuable, and obviously the economic environment. I think we had a question out. Yes, beautiful. Thank you.
Yes, thanks. Kia ora, Alistair here from Revolution InfoSec. You'd be surprised that I'm going to ask you a question about security coming from InfoSec. Yeah, so Garrett, thanks for your mention of security. I was just going to wonder, you know, you look at AWS, you look at Azure, they'll talk a big talk about security, but do they actually have a whole lot of certification? They always talk about the onus being on you, or at least a shared model. But I noticed that you might have some certifications from day one. What certifications are they in the security landscape?
So at the risk of my engineering team coming and tackling me on stage, I'll try to address that. I'll actually give you a better point than certificates and commitments. Oracle actually has a different architecture. And some people might say, you know, whoa, you guys think you're smarter than everybody else. And that's actually not the case. It's based out of experience. We're a 47-year-old database company. And decades ago, we recognized that in database management, you don't give the database controller access to the data. They're just a controller. They sit on a different control panel, they sit on a different server, and they manage the database, they monitor the database, they make sure the database is working, and it's scaling, and it's operational, but they never touch the data. They don't have access to that. When we developed Generation 2, besides the fact that we learned a lot about clustering from things like database and that we learned that networks have to operate faster, we also took the database paradigm, and the architecture of the Oracle Cloud is different. Our control plane sits on a different CPU. So if in the event the infrastructure was breached, typically this happens at the hypervisor layer, a lot of times through VMware and others. It would breach the control plane, but it would never allow the bad actor, so to speak, to get into your data. What it would do is just shut down the control. Now, could you upgrade? Could you scale at that point in time? No. But if you've got a bad actor in your infrastructure, you're not worried about scaling and you're not worried about upgrading. You're worried about making sure your data's protected, your credit card numbers, your telephone numbers, your subscriber numbers, your addresses. That stuff they can't get to. And that architecturally is an enormous difference than the way other clouds, Gen 1 clouds, have been built. They will get there, but they're not going to get there this year, next year, or probably in the next couple of years because it's a paradigm shift in infrastructure and architecture. So the security layer, with all the certificates and all the government approvals and all the IRAPs and everything else we've done around the world, all very important. But the most important thing is we don't have a door to go through. So when they land on our processor and we detect, we just shut it down. And if basically we trap the ransomware, we trap the bad actor. And then we can clean that out, bring it back online, reconnect to the infrastructure when clean. And that protects our customers' data from having basically be wrongly accessed, to lack of a better expression. So all of those certificates and working with foundations, we take it extremely serious. We've done FedRAMP in the governments in the US. We're doing everything in Australia. We're doing New Zealand. We're doing it in Japan. But the most important thing is we don't have that gateway for the secure breach to occur.
We've got time for one last question. Diana, beautiful.
Hello, I'm Diana. Nice to meet you. I tend to work with the startup ecosystem and in particular AI-driven applications. So what is your approach to the startup ecosystem in New Zealand and how are you encouraging them to jump on your cloud, given the rate of innovation that we're already experiencing there? We're actually leading the way in a lot of places already in AI-driven applications. So it tends to be focused on AWS a lot. I would love to hear about whether you want to work with more startups who are actively innovating in that space now and what your thoughts are about helping us do even more so.
Well, that's what we want to do. We realise, from I guess a marketing and a reputation, AWS is ahead at the moment, but we think we can offer so much. We have a partner manager and her job is basically just to deal with partners and help other partners to move into our cloud. We are looking for an ecosystem of New Zealand's best to help them to develop their products in our cloud and to try to turn those into exports as well. And I was just talking to someone last week. He has a first-class degree in maths, and he talks about stuff that I don't understand. I'm not even close to understanding. But he's got a fantastic mind, and he's developed this amazing model, and he wants to put it into AI. So we will bring them on as a partner. We will almost fund the initial startup because they, until they get funding, or maybe we can organise funding through someone like Leon, who's just had to leave early. But we are really about trying to promote innovation and productivity in New Zealand, Inc.